Public election activity took place in Dayton. United States U.S. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are moving towards a rematch in November. Trump headed to Ohio to host a rally in Dayton, where he took the chance to slam Biden and called the November 5th election to be the last election for US if he does not win. Trump was in Ohio to campaign for Senate candidate Bernie Moreno, who will be facing Secretary of State Frank LaRose and State Senator Matt Dolan in the next week's GOP primary. The Ohio election is among several seen as critical to Democratic hopes of holding the Senate. Gun violence horror in the United States again. A man who allegedly shot 3 people dead in Philadelphia on Saturday has been arrested. Police say he was taken into custody from a house in New Jersey where he had barricaded himself. Andre Gordon Jr. has been charged for 2 separate shootings in Falls Township and Buck County. Gordon is suspected of killing the 52-year-old stepmother, his 13-year-old sister, and the mother of his 2 children, the 25-year-old Taylor Daniel. Gordon is also charged for using a rifle to brutally beat Daniel's mother. While she has sustained severe injuries, authorities claim that she is expected to survive. Public anger continues to mount against Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Thousands took to the streets of Tel Aviv to call for a deal to release the hostages held by Hamas. While anti-government protesters called for new elections, in Tel Aviv, the police personnel used water cannons against protesters, demanding the government's resignation. It was the 3rd Saturday in a row that they have used a pressurized water spraying vehicle on the protesters, who blocked a main road. The police jostled with the demonstrators, trying to move them from the road. About 120 hostages were freed during the November ceasefire last year. That also led to the release of hundreds of Palestinians from Israeli prisons. The head of Israeli intelligence Mossad, David Barnea, is reportedly attending fresh truce talks in Qatar. The Mossad Chief is likely to hold talks with Qatari Prime Minister and Egyptian officials to fill in the remaining gaps in the Israel and Hamas's ceasefire deal. Now, this comes after Hamas abandoned key ceasefire demands following a series of setbacks. In a joint operation with Jordan, a US aircraft dropped humanitarian aid to Palestinian civilians trapped in the Gaza Strip on Saturday. The US Air Force said bundles of Jordanian food supplies were among the items dropped during the operation. The United States began aid airdrops on March 2nd and is planning a US military sea list of assistance from the island of Cyprus. As of now, much of Gaza lies in ruins, and its 2.3 million Palestinians are facing serious food shortages for over 5 months. After Israel launched an air and ground offensive in the aftermath of the October 7th attacks carried out by Hamas militants on the Israeli soil. Congress party leader and Member of Parliament Rahul Gandhi concluded the final leg of his Bharat Jodo Nyaya Yatra in Mumbai. Rahul Gandhi had started the march from the northeastern state of Manipur on January 14th. Addressing a mega public rally, Rahul Gandhi raked up the issue of communal politics, accusing the government of neglecting the poor, farmers, the women and the youth. Rahul said, there is a maximum of 5% of people who get justice, claiming 90% of the population suffers due to injustice. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has been summoned by the Enforcement Directorate in a money laundering probe linked to alleged irregularities in the Delhi Jal Board. Kejriwal has earlier been issued notice for questioning in the Delhi excise policy linked money laundering case, where he has skipped 8 summons issued by the probe agency, terming them illegal. The Aam Aadmi Party leader and Delhi Minister Atishi has said that Arvind Kejriwal has been summoned in a fake case. The presidential candidate from the Russian Communist Party cast his ballot on the third and the final day of voting. The leader of the Communist Party, Nikolai Kharitonov, is one of the 3 other candidates from the Kremlin-friendly parties who are unlikely to present a real challenge to Putin. After voting in one of Moscow's polling stations, Kharitonov said he hopes that his program will definitely be in demand with the population. Fire breaks out in an oil refinery in Russia's Krasnodar region after the Ukrainian forces launched several drones at the facility. The operational headquarters of the region said the drones had been neutralized, but one of the devices had fallen and led to the fire. Now, according to the Russian state media, one worker of the refinery was injured due to the drone attack. Moscow has accused Ukraine of using terrorist activities to try to disrupt its 3-day presidential election. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu ordered the Black Sea Navy to strengthen the protection of its facilities and conduct regular drills on how to repel attacks on its ships. The video released by the Russian Defense Ministry showed Shoigu attending meetings with the Russian Navy officials, including Admiral Alexander Moiseev, who is the Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Navy and the former commander of the Black Sea Fleet. Shoigu also visited the Navy's command center. It is pertinent to note that Russia's Black Sea Navy has come under frequent attacks from the Ukrainian forces. Ukrainian soldiers on the front line say they do not have enough weapons to properly fight the Russian armed forces. The Ukrainian army personnel are hoping for more military supplies from Ukraine's Western allies as they struggle against better provisioned Russian army. The European Union's plans to produce 1 million artillery rounds for Ukraine have fallen well short, while aid for Ukraine is being held up in the United States due to political differences. France will be asking Russia to observe a ceasefire in Ukraine during the Paris Olympics. French President Emmanuel Macron said France has no limit to helping Ukraine and that it seeks to bring a sustainable peace back to Europe. Now, the International Olympic Committee has condemned Russia's all-out war against Ukraine. However, it allowed Russian athletes to participate in the Olympics, which will take place this year in Paris. A decision that Ukraine has strongly criticized. In January of 2023, Ukrainian Minister of Foreign Affairs Dmytro Kuleba said that the International Olympic Committee is sweeping Russian war crimes under the rug. When asked about a call for a ceasefire during the Paris Olympics, Macron affirmed that such a request would be made. Hundreds of protesters took to the streets in Mexico City to demand greater rights for animals. Animal rights advocates are calling for animals to be considered sentient beings in North American country. The protesters say that they hope that a change in legislation will provide harsher penalties for people who harm animals. The protesters also raised their voice against bullfighting, which resumed in the country at the end of January after a suspension of 1.5 years. Brazil's former president Jair Bolsonaro has said that he does not fear being put on trial after a police investigation revealed that former president tried to co-opt the country's military chiefs in a coup planned to overturn his 2022 election defeat. Bolsonaro has denied the allegations of planning a coup after his election defeat, which he never conceded. He left for Florida to avoid handing the presidential sash to Lula. Days later, Bolsonaro's supporters stormed government buildings in an attempt to provoke a coup. Last year, Bolsonaro was banned from running for elected office for 8 years for abusing his power as president and repeatedly criticizing the country's electoral system. He could face a possible arrest and a trial by the Supreme Court. Venezuelan President Maduro has announced his candidacy for the second re-election to secure another 6-year term in voting planned for July 28th. Maduro, a 61-year-old former union leader, was proclaimed as a Socialist Party's candidate by the Vice President Diosdado Cabello and took the stage at a large sport arena to address supporters. Recent polls show that 13.9% of Venezuelans plan to vote for Maduro, far behind opposition candidate Maria Corina Machado's 54.5%. Now, Venezuela has suffered hyperinflation and an unprecedented economic collapse since Maduro took power in 2013. The country also witnessed waves of protests against Maduro, particularly between 2014 and 2017, resulting in dozens of arrests and killings. As gang violence continues to grip Haiti, police in the capital of Port-au-Prince are trying to recapture areas held by notorious gang leader Jimmy Cherizier, also known as Barbecue. The United States has announced that it will airlift stranded Americans via a chartered flight from Cap Haitien, nearly 200 kilometers away from the capital. The gang leader Barbecue has been one of the most outspoken enemies of Ariel Henry, demanding his resignation ever since he was sworn in as the Prime Minister of Haiti. Police are trying to recapture areas held by the gang leader and have entered his stronghold, the Delmas neighborhood, to try and arrest him. A fierce forest blaze in the Nilgiri forests in Tamil Nadu state in South India is now into its 6th day. The Indian Air Force has been called in for firefighting operations. The fire has already charred several hundred acres of forest land. The Indian Air Force has deployed Mi-17 V5 helicopters from Air Force Station of Sulur. The helicopter, which has been equipped with a Bambi bucket, took over 40 sorties on Saturday during the operation. The chopper procured water from the Bhavani River to spray it in inaccessible areas. The authorities in Iceland released an aerial footage showing lava spewing from an erupting volcano near towns that were being evacuated. This is the 4th volcanic eruption since December last year, and it began at 8:23 p.m. local time on Saturday. The fissure was estimated to be around 2.9 kilometers long, roughly the same size as the last eruption in February. Lava appeared to be flowing rapidly south towards the nearby Grindavik fishing town, where a few of the nearly 4,000 residents had returned following earlier outbreaks. Now, according to the reports, the town was again evacuated by the authorities. After talk of a ban in the United States, Chinese video sharing app TikTok is facing ban calls in the United Kingdom now. UK's Ministry of Defence has alerted the military top brass to restrict the use of the video sharing app. Now, this comes amid mounting fears that the sensitive data on the app can be misused by China. The British Ministry of Defence has said that soldiers are not allowed to access the app on their official devices, though there is no restriction on the app's usage in personal capacity. The British Special Forces have been ordered to stop all kinds of use of the app with immediate effect. US prosecutors are probing if tech giant Meta facilitated the illegal selling of drugs. According to reports, prosecutors sent summon orders last year over records of violative drug content on Meta apps. The US Food and Drug Administration is also helping with the probe. Meta was quick to dismiss all allegations and doubts over the selling of drugs on its sites. An unnamed spokesperson for Meta has said that the sale of drugs is against Meta's policies. He added that the social media giant works in tandem with enforcement bodies to combat the sale of drugs.